This is the virtual happy hour experience with the Drunken Grape. Each and every week we have extraordinary drinks with extraordinary people. I have a sensational guest this week. He is an expert host. He is an expert coach. He is also an author. He has launched his own book, and we're going to get into the whole backstory of the great Steve Sullivan. Steve, how the hell are you? Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, I'm doing great, Rob, and it is awesome to be here with you. We have engaged on so many different levels. I think this is the first time we're actually having the opportunity to talk, and that is a big plus for
Yeah,
me.
and it's, I was on Russ Hedges' show earlier on, and it's about building community. And in a more integrated world and in a more interconnected world, I mean, we can talk all about the doldrums of some aspects of social media, particularly Facebook, but there's a huge positive element too. And we met this way, and LinkedIn is a great community. It's a great way to engage. It's an atmosphere that really promotes positive thought, constructive thought, and leadership, change management. You're part of all of this as well as an entrepreneur. You were in the career path before, and now you coach people in the career path themselves. And you have a book that actually gives a lot of sage advice and life lessons. We're going to get into this all into the show, ladies and gentlemen. As far as the broadcast, make sure to share and like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the Drunken Grape YouTube channel. And when you do, hit the notification bell and select all. You will get weekly updates as to show times, which typically air at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time each and every Thursday for the very happy hour. So, Steve, how did you get started pre-coaching? What was your background?
My background was in IT. I've got over 30 years of IT going back to the beginning of the IBM PC when it came out in the early 80s.
Wow.
And so I rode that career for a long time. I got into healthcare for over 20 years. I served as a leader in healthcare IT. And then, like many older people, my healthcare organization I was with merged with another one. And I was a part of really what I call the secondary partner. And the primary partner decided, they wanted to stick with their leadership team. And most of us in the secondary partner got laid off and out the door, which is a pretty common thing for people in our age group, in the 50s. And that set me off into looking at other alternatives. I mean, I found it hard trying to get back into healthcare. I was able to have tons of conversations with people, with some of the biggest healthcare providers, at least in North America, Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, all of them interviewed me for more than multiple positions. But not one of them said, "Hey, we're going to hire you." And after that journey of almost 2 years, I decided, people kept saying to me, "Rob, Steve, you'd make a great coach. You should go into coaching." And I struggled with that for a little bit because I wanted to get back into healthcare. I had a passion in healthcare for providers. I grew up in a medical family. But as that door closed on me, hey, I now have the opportunity to help people as a coach in a number of different ways, whether it's them needing to rebuild confidence, whether that's them needing to learn how to be an effective leader, or whether that's exploring who they are as a person through the UMAP process. And I know you had Christian Cherry on your show not too long ago.
You're right. And one of the biggest things and it really disgusts me, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm not really affected anymore. And as are you now. So you're not really affected by this job ageism, but it's a disgusting thing going on in the workplace today. Lots of laws have to come about. Businesses should be shut down and forced right out of business and into receivership for this. It is a form of absolute discrimination. It's as bad as racism, and I'm not kidding. It's even worse. Well, it's as bad, because it actually permeates everything like racism does, or any kind of bias, and a bias in a very unfounded and unjustifiable way. And the disturbing part is that older workers have a lot more skill, a lot more experience, a lot more know-how that they can impart. It almost feels like we're living in a world of Logan's Run, where they get renewed after the age of 30. They vanish, and it's like, that is not the society that you want to have to live in, especially when people are living a lot longer. You want them as productive and as healthy as possible. And being employed and gainfully employed is a massive part of someone's health. I know that you also had a massive health scare tying into that. And it's, I also worked in IT too, so I understand that gambit. It's funny, before I was in this business, I actually was in IT for 5 years. I was going to become or study my PMP, my project management designation. It was my late father who talked me out of it, who was a prolific home wine brewer and winemaker, vintner. And he convinced me to take this path, and I'm very grateful. And I, like yourself, stepped out into the entrepreneurial journey. But it's not for everybody. This is the 1% that has the guts to step out on their own. And it takes, for me, what it was the tipping point was I had this business set up 6 years ago, but it was a hobby business in the sense that it was low revenue. And what really started to push me forward to doing a lot better is when my late twin sister got sick and then she passed. And it was my why to juggernaut this thing forward. And I know you had a health scare too. You had to battle cancer, did you not? And that was a whole other animal that you had to overcome.
Yeah, I did, but that was a long time ago. It was in my early
Oh, wow.
20s, over 35 years
Wow.
ago. I had acute myelogenous leukemia, AML. I got treatment for it. I relapsed a year later and had to get treatment again. And at the end of that second treatment, the doctors were, they came to me and said, "Hey, we've got to tell you the fact that you relapsed, you're probably going to relapse again. And you probably only have a 5% chance to be alive in a year." And hey, 35 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah,
So
and you're looking strong and healthy. Listen, my father lost his life to leukemia, so I learned a lot about AML and CML and the variants of it. And the fact that you were able to cross over that hurdle, I really believe it's given you a lot of resolve. Because when you triumph over
it
adversity,
has.
it gives you the resolve to stand up and say, wait a second, our lives are all going to end. This chapter in this physical world will come to an end. But why not maximize it? For you to pivot into the coaching world and into a legitimate one, we hear coaching all the time on LinkedIn, or content creators, but they're coaches of what and content creators of for who? They don't have identifiable brands. They're not in an identifiable or true coaching program. And I know Kristen built this brilliant program, or UMAP, and they do UMAP certifications.
Yes.
It looks at your pillars of strength. It assesses you to find your talents, and it really helps you maximize your life. And this is a brilliant program. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for change, this is something you want to look at. You definitely want to reach out to Steve. He has spent a considerable amount of time in this arena. And I would believe that it's a lot of your life experiences, and also being in technology. You are not accustomed to an industry that has high turnover. One of the most disappointing things of tech, even though it's brilliant at what it gives us, it gives us webcams and computers and, state-of-the-art microphones and audio-visual things. It helps with healthcare. That helps with, driverless cars and everything else that's coming out, and endless other applications. But this is an industry that does not really seem to embrace wanting to have people for the long term, unless you're the 1% that's an executive that sits on a board. And this is a problem.
Yes.
It's a significant problem. And you are definitely aware of that. And I'm sure you've used these experiences to really help assess and guide people to a better lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. Within IT, one of the things I realized young, and I made the conscious decision when I went into leadership to step away from it, is you have valuable skills as a programmer. Um, and if you continue to cultivate those skills, you'll always have a need. There'll always be a place for you to go. Once you start moving into management and some of these other positions, now there's fewer positions available, and what they're looking for can vary from company to company. Some are looking for somebody who can come in and be collaborative and almost make their it a home with their company. Others, it's who you know, and it's all about politics. And if you know the right people, they'll get you in the door. But if you don't, you're never going to get in the door.
No, these are significant hurdles that have to be solved. I think the pandemic has opened up a lot of people to it. I had an argument with a friend recently, and he's a business owner, and I understand his side, and he actually does a lot of good things for his people. Credit to him, and I should tell him that. But he's in a small town, and I have, but he also is like staunchly against sort of the great resignation that's happening in hospitality. Now, he thinks it's up here with CERB and the government giving monthly stipend that's coming to an end, but it's not. People rediscovered what they wanted to do. And there's a huge amount of people that have left restaurants and retail in order to go into much better careers. And if the really smart ones, in fact, picked up skill sets to be in trades where it doesn't matter how old you are, you can work forever in a trade. And this is ingenious. And if you're stuck, this is what I would recommend. Trades are an excellent way to go. They're in shortage and they pay very, very well. And you will have a career for life as a welder, a plumber, a trucker. These are things that will not disappear. And what the pandemic has done is really shaken the boots of people realizing that they don't want to be in a lot of these industries anymore, and they are looking for change. And tell us how UMAP works, because that definitely implements the change process that can help them get from where they are into a much better direction.
Well, the UMAP process, it's kind of a framework. We're kind of gravitating towards that word now as a more than assessment or a process. We look at individual strengths utilizing the Gallup Strength Finder. So there's 34 defined strengths that people tend to have as they work in the business world. Now, those strengths actually carry over into all areas of their life. And then values. What are your key values? That plays a big role on whether people find fulfillment at a workplace. If you're working for somebody who's not honoring your values, you're going to hate it.
We've all been there.
It'll drive you. Yeah, it'll drive you out of the company really quick. The skills. Most people focus on the skills. Oh, I can do this. I can do it. No, the skills are things that you can learn. But it's good to know what skills do you like to do and what skills you might be really good at, but they're burnout skills. You hate doing them. I'll give you an example of me. In all my leadership years, I had to do budgeting. Okay. So I became good at budgeting, but I hate budgeting. To sit down and do that work. It's a burnout skill for me. I was fortunate in leadership. It was like one time a year. We had to sit down and spend that time. And then we look at personality. What type of personality do you have? Are you kind of an engineering type of personality where, you'll be more inclined to a heads down type of job? Are you more outgoing, people oriented? And so a social type of job will benefit you. I know a good example for the service industry. There was a woman who went from pretty much restaurant to restaurant, various things doing service for basically minimum wage. And she came to the point in her 30s where she said, I've got to make more money, but I don't have any skills. I didn't go to college. And that's where, from a UMAP standpoint, we'll work with that person and say, okay, what did you like about the jobs that you worked? And she said, I like working with people. So there's all sorts of jobs that you can do to work with people. And in fact, ultimately, she joined a company as a recruiter. And now she's making big bucks as a recruiter because she developed the personal skills to work with people. So there's a lot of transferable skills that come from knowing how to serve people.
That's true. And with that, the toast, the happy hour, ladies and gentlemen. I've got an oatmeal stout here. What are you drinking, my friend? What do you have in your hand?
for the holidays. The Witch's
Oh,
Brew.
nice, nice. So, what
It's
kind of beer style is it?
it's mulling spices. It's a mulling spices red wine. It's they say
Oh,
it's 4 out of 5 on the sweet scale, so it is a sweet red wine. It's popular. It's a Michigan-based wine.
is it
So
low in alcohol? 'Cause
uh,
often sweet wines will have a lower alcohol base. Or is this
no,
one high and fortified?
no. Yeah,
Okay, so
12.5.
quite a bit of residual sugar in there, but probably not as high as it could have been. The grapes sometimes can ripen to a level where they can be at 16, 17% alcohol. So sometimes what they'll do there is arrest the fermentation or stuck fermentation to create a sweeter style like Moscato. There's other tricks to the trade. You can use semi-dried grapes, then add enrichment to it. There's all sorts of tricks they can do to create these sweet pasitos or sweet wines. But definitely great coming up into the Thanksgiving and holiday season, too. I've got something that's very heartwarming here. This is from Floral Hall Brewing. This is a brewery in Ottawa. This is my friend David Longbottom. This is an excellent local craft brewer. They literally do everything from kitchen to table in the restaurant. All the beer is brewed in-house. They brew at small batches at a time. They sell out frequently and often. They're always booked out. Now, oatmeal stout's great because the oatmeal malt and the oatmeal and the grain bill on top of pale malts, and in this case, you're going to have a lot of roasted malts. Adds creaminess and body to the beer. Now, it's very opaque, and it looks like an espresso in beer form in a glass. Even the head of it has this heavy mocha head to it. And you're going to get that. You're going to get like coffee and dark coffee with hints of cream notes. This is the very first industrial beer style to hit the world. It was the British Empire proliferated the globe with this in the 17th and into the 18th centuries, just pre-pale ale, which was the next style to go global. And it went side and side with a lot of the Industrial Revolution advancements, as well as the advancement in shipping. So we were able to take this product and ship it around the globe. This goes really well with things like vanilla ice cream, believe it or not, or a hearty beef stew. So it's pretty diverse.
I bet.
Strong beer. It's definitely got some bitter notes in it. The roasted notes and some of the sweeter notes balance it out a bit. So this is a well-balanced and integrated brew, just to talk a bit about that. Cheers to you, Steve. Cheers to the audience. The happy hour.
Cheers.
Now, Steve, to continue this, we're going to bring up your profile because you have launched a book. So I'm going to take a look at this. And what we have here, I love Riverside
Yes.
FM because it allows you to do these brilliant screen sharing things. So we've got your profile here. And in it, you have bite-sized stories to inspire. I love it. And apples and oranges. So I read excerpts about this. It gives a lot of nuggets of wisdom. It gives transformational leadership advice. There was one excerpt I read about a gentleman who was complaining to his friend about how the employee of 20 years quit on him. And he looked at him, he said, well, you haven't really given me any positive affirmations here in my time that I've been here. And he didn't understand it. He goes, well, I paid him well. What did he want? A job's a job. I'm not there to give him a happy environment or to be a friend. And the person he was talking to looked at him and said, no, you're to create an environment and a culture. This is the gist I got from this. And you are responsible for creating happiness within the workplace because you own that workplace. Now, tell us a fair bit about this book and what inspired you to write it, because becoming an author is no easy feat. You can ask Kristen Sherry. She's written, 7 books now.
Yes.
And I think now she's only able to sit down and really reap the benefits of it, of her successes, and work on other goals like her health goals and her fitness goals, which she's done a tremendous job of. And I would love to see you go right down the same path. And I really believe you're going to.
Thank
So
you.
talk to us a bit about this book. I think this is great.
From my leadership experiences, I created certain stories. They're all fictional stories. They're not your typical work type story. All these stories are based on metaphors. So I'll use an object to teach something. For example, Rob, I don't know how much you know about Scotch and Scotch whiskey, but one of my stories
A
in
bit.
there utilizes utilizes the idea of 50-year-old Scott versus 5-year-old Scotch as these two managers are talking about eliminating people in the corporate place. And hey, we want to get rid of the older guys because we want to give the younger guys, you know, more opportunity and they're cheaper. All the reasons there are to get rid of older people. But by drawing a connection to 50-year Scotch versus 5-year Scotch, I try to get leaders to think about, which would you rather have? The 50-year-old Scotch or the 5-year-old Scotch? And I'm not a
No, but
Scotch
that's a good
drinker,
analogy.
but
That's a
from what
great
I've,
analogy.
yes, from my research, it's like, yeah, you've got a smoothness in the older Scotch. It's also very expensive, but the younger Scotch has maybe got more bitterness. It still has to mellow over
It's got to
time, kind of
refine.
thing. Um, yes, and so you need, in a sense, your older people to help refine the younger people. So that's the bottom line story within that. But there's 33 stories like that in this book. I call them bite-sized because you can read them in 2 minutes. It's designed almost to be a meditation book for leaders. You can get up in the morning, you can read one of these. Every story ends with a question, and you can think about that throughout the day. And then the next day, get up, read the next one. And I guarantee you that there will be stories that really strike home to you. Maybe not every story, because everybody is in different places, but I cover so many different aspects that when I hit home, I really hear from the people. They're like, "Oh man, you just like spoke to my situation. How did you know that?" It's like I didn't. I just that's how the story flowed. And from that standpoint, I'm honored that people come back to me and tell me that it really hits home to them. I'm also honored when people come back to me and say, "Hey, I wish you were my manager." And they think these stories are like real stories, and I have to tell them no, they're fictional stories. Uh, but I'm honored that they read them in a way that it sounds like a real story. Um, and again, if you like stories, if you like parables, stories with a message, this book will hit those and you will love it. Um, I often tell people it's kind of in that same genre as what's considered business fable. So if you've ever read Who Moved My Cheese, that's a business fable. Um, there's other books in that genre as well, but I gravitate towards those type of things where the story pulls me in, inspires me, and helps educate
Yeah, and
me.
I think stories are very powerful. You're a great storyteller. I followed you for years on LinkedIn now. I think you do a tremendous job organically with it. I want to stress that. You're not part of an engagement pod or that nonsense. You've actually really built this on your own merit with great content. And what's awesome with these 2 to 3 minute nuggets of advice is in an attention deficit world that we live in and the ageist world that we live in, and this is all a problem. We got to solve these problems. Books like this give people inspiration and hope. And I would highly recommend for all the viewers to grab a copy of this. I'm going to have a link to all of this information in the description of the show, as well as Steve's contact information. I think it's crucial and critical at the same time that people like you, real thought leaders, step up to the forefront. We need more of you in the world, Steve Sullivan. And the fact of this is that it is just 100% exact. And the great part about this and giving information in nuggets, it reminds me of a French course I've taken for years, and it's actually drastically improved my French. It's called 3-Minute French by Kieran Ball. You can get it on Udemy. And he does different language courses. And the concept is if you do a bite size a day, 3 minutes a day, you're generally going to be disciplined to do it throughout most of the year. You may have a few days off here and there. Other days you decide to do 4 or 5 of these courses. That's how I work it. But you're always going to bite into it. And it's not intimidating to grab this large compendium where you feel that there's just an overwhelming amount of information. People are very busy in today's world. It's sad because with all the tech, we have the ability to make people have more leisure time, not less of it, but they have less of it. And a book like this opens the door to possibility in bite-sized chunks over a cup of coffee. I mean, I think this is just fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I know as I have shared these stories out, people have said to me, yeah, I look forward to your story Saturday morning. I get my cup of coffee, I sit down and read your story. So uh, I appreciate all the people who followed me, and you've been one of those great followers. And thank you, Rob, for your support of me, my efforts as a coach, and my new book, which I hope people will buy because I know they will enjoy it and it will speak to them in a powerful
You know, and it speaks to their soul. And you know, with that, we're going to close this show off. Steve, you have been a tremendous guest. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to reach out to Steve. Details are going to be in the show notes. Much love to your brother. You deserve all the success in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to follow him, make sure to connect with him, make sure to reach out to him. You're going to get a lot of sage advice on career coaching and business matters. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you decide to do, have a sensational day. This is Rob and Steve from The Drunken Grid.
Cheers.